Good evening. I'd like to call the Parks and Rec Commission meeting to order this evening, and especially like to welcome all those who are with us this evening. Grateful that you're here. So my name is Alex Hackman, and just so grateful everybody's here in attendance. So we'll proceed to the second item on the agenda, approval of the January 11th minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as sent out? Motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? At this time, it's open for public comment for any items not on the agenda, and we'll be, as kind of instructed here, limiting to 3 minutes per person for those that may be new or here for the first time. And so that's just by kind of city practice then.
We don't have the big clock, so I'll do my best to do it on here, and we'll be gentle about it. But just so you know, you won't have the clock in front of you.
So are there any public comment items that are not on the agenda?
Yeah. I've got a handout for everyone here.
And if you could state your name.
Oh,
as
yeah,
well.
Justin Fishbaugh, sorry,
Yeah.
Iowa City. If you want to pass those things around, I got a couple of comments. There's graphs that we can. Oh, and is there, when this thing gets,
It started, sorry.
yeah, it's okay. Does this thing get incorporated into the official minutes? The
It's
thing
not
on
in the
handout?
minutes. Well, I'll let you
Is there a
know.
way to do that? Okay.
If you send it to us ahead of time, we can send it out in the packets usually
Okay.
as correspondence. So it
Can we
could
send
be-
it afterwards to you?
So it would be included as correspondence in the next month's packet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so we prepared a handout for you to help with the review of pool use data that is provided to you each month by Parks and Recs Department. Our goal is to get accurate pool use counts so that we can all make informed decisions about the future of our aquatic centers. First, we'd like to point out that we do not count users 2 to 3 times because we don't provide cumulative attendance data. What we do is we count people in the pool at 30-minute intervals while the pool is open. So that's all we do. You know, 8:30, somebody makes a count, writes it down. What we found when reviewing each monthly report from Parks and Recs Department in the last 3 months anyway, is that there are gross errors at times, and these errors can be significant over a 1-month time span. For example, on December 9th, and that's one of the examples on there, Parks and Rec reported 0 scans from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., while citizens counted 13 pool users that were later confirmed by reviewing pool security video that we obtained through a public information request. What we found is that when the equivalent pool hours are compared between Robert E. Lee and Mercer and normalized for the large difference in size between the 2 pools so that we have an apples-to-apples comparison, the total REL pool use is 1.5 times more than Mercer for the 4th quarter of 2022. And these results confirm the robust use of the REL pool that citizens have consistently described. So I hope you take a good look at that and got questions.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Karen Crane. I'm from Iowa City, and my sons, also known as my bosses, are here with you. Emails. So you wonder, why am I giving you emails? It's because I am a Robert A. Lee pool user. I love the Robert A. Lee pool. I use it many times a week. And there's been questions about pool usage, although I agree with my friend Justin, I think it's robust. One issue that's come up is how to increase pool use. Thank you, honey. And here's a way. Marketing. I get emails from the Coralville Parks and Recreation inviting me to Aquasize. And it's tempting. They tell me when, they tell me where, they tell me what. And they reach out to me. I think one of the problems with Robert A. Lee Pool, I've never gotten any promotional materials. Maybe I missed it, possible, but I don't recall it. And it's hard to bring people in if they don't know you're here. So it's both for aqua size and for swim lessons. Oh, and speaking of swim lessons, I want to thank whoever is responsible for adding the level 6 pool. My boys are here tonight because they're going to a swim lesson right after this. So for swim lessons, for aqua size, for all aspects of Rotary League pool use, I think marketing would be great. The other thing is I'm a frequent swimmer Sunday evenings, and there are oftentimes families here, and families who maybe aren't strong swimmers, but there's no indication here at Robert A. Lee that there are swim lessons. You have to go online. First you have to know they're here, then you have to go online. I spend my life online. I work at a desk. I can do everything I need to do online except manage ActiveNet here. I always have to go to the front desk to get them to sign me up and sign my voice up. It's a cumbersome process, and if people don't have ready access to computers, it's going to be hard. So I suggest that there be some kind of advertising for the families who come so they can learn. They want to be in the water, and I think everybody wants them to be safe in the water. So advertising swim lessons, advertising aqua size, I think would really move you in the direction I think everybody wants to go. Thank you. And welcome to the new members.
Any other public comment at this time? Okay, we'll proceed to item number 4 on the agenda.
So I'm going to have Kumi Morris, our facility manager, come up for the Parks and Rec Commission. You don't get to see Kumi all that often. Kumi is another member of our team, the same as Brad and Tyler, who you see almost every month. But Kumi's role is as in charge of all the facilities. So everything that keeps us in business with heating, cooling, the buildings around us. And she's here to talk to you about the project we're planning for Mercer entry and lighting. And I'm going to have the screen away.
Actually, I think if you don't mind, I'll turn the lights off. It might be easier to repeat that. What do you think?
Oh,
Is that too hard?
Yeah.
Folks? Okay.
Oh, this is wonderful.
There we go. Hello, as Julie said, my name is Kumi Morris, and I'm the city's facilities manager. I'm very excited to present this project to you today. It's something that we've been working on for some time, and you'll see it on the future council agenda as the Mercer Aquatic Center and Scanlon Gym exterior accessibility and lighting improvements project. The project started as a project to replace the lighting, exterior lighting all around the building, some of that which is from 88, I believe, and then also to look and rectify the paving and sidewalks that are all around the building that presently do not meet the thresholds for ADA. And so this is a long time coming, and it's going to be a great project. So I'm just going to move through these slides and describe the project for you. So here's the site, and as you can see, there's a lot of sidewalk all around the site, right up to Bradford Drive, down to the base of the building, and also from the parking lot, from the south to the front. And when we looked at the paving around the structure, we were looking at all this area here in terms of trying to figure out how to make sure that as much as we can possibly get is accessible to the entry of the building. So it's a lot. That's a lot of concrete. As you can see, we have a number of issues with the current pathways. You can see this crack at the bottom is something that we see almost every time we replace it, it comes back because there's a water pipe underneath that. We're going to, when we go through and do some of these changes, we're changing some of the subgrades to be able to handle some of the cracks and some of the issues that we're seeing. So you'll see that around the building probably now and throughout the spring until this project is complete. Around the building, you'll see, especially around the front, you'll see areas of small, which means that the parts of the tops of the concrete panels have come off. You'll see cracks between the panels and chips. Another thing that we've done over the years is, it's hard to see this image, but where things have heaved week, and some of the panels that come up, we come back in and brought in contractors, and some of our staff actually would come in and ground down some of those areas so that we don't have differences between the panels and the true hazards. But it's something that we've come back to continually to do some repairs. You'll see that there's lots of displacement of sidewalks. One of the other things that we'll be looking at is replacing lighting. Right now, we have the 1988 in-ground halide lighting. We can't even get the ballast for these lights anymore. And you'll see that there's this there's a circular well lights that are present there. We'll also be replacing the building lampposts with LED lighting. And the bike racks, and presently there will be removed. We'll be encouraging folks to use the play station bike rack that's to the east of the building. I included this picture because it gives you an idea of what kind of slope that we're working with and trying to meet to have to the current ADA standards. The slope that you're supposed to see in front of a structure like this is about a 5% slope. This is nowhere. This is well beyond that. And so, this is some of the challenges that the civil engineers are going through and trying to get this to work appropriately. Also, the parking areas that we have, both in front of the building and also the ADA spots to the, I guess it would be to the south on the east lot, are not ADA compliant. And presently, the slopes don't meet that compliancy. This is a view of the same parking area, and the doesn't meet for van spaces. We need 11 feet of space, and also curb cuts, aisle widths, paving markings, and the signage don't presently meet the current code. Here is a view approaching from the southwest. You can see the road is in pretty rough condition. That's one of the things that we'll be addressing as we go through and improve the parking area. We'll also be looking at this section of road, not necessarily all the way to Bradford Drive, but just around that U bend there where it's has the most issues. And presently, this is the paved area. And I'm showing this image because in the next one you'll see the change that we're making. So right now there's a lot of concrete paving right in front of the building. And we will be taking that and reducing some of that and adding a lot more green space. And so this is presently the amount of paving that's there, and that we are looking at that east side. And we will be going to this. And so I'm just going to keep this up really quickly here. But everything that is dotted shows green space. So what is presently all this that's filled in terms of concrete will be removed and going to green space. We will keep a pathway that goes to that area that's right in front of the Procter & Gamble room, and then some of these other areas where we're taking out some of the concrete and cleaning some of this up will all be going to green space.
So instead of a large concrete plaza in front of the building, it'll be mostly green space with a nice wide sidewalk to get to the front entrance.
And the good part of that was not only to add more green space, but also to try to mitigate some of the slope issues we have in terms of trying the ADA compliance. One thing I want to point out is you'll notice that we're going to be removing some of the sidewalk path that's presently here, and I'll talk about that here in the next slide. So we'll be removing the southwest sidewalk from Mercer Park, and that's, you can kind of see that right there. And then also we'll be removing the crossing from the corner to the building. And what we'll be doing instead is create a new crossing, and that will be on the south side of the park. So removing the concrete here, and then creating an ADA path with the appropriate slopes and crossing here. And the main reason for that is that one, will be better sight lines for cars coming around the corner, not having kids crossing or families crossing right there where they're turning and not necessarily able to see that there's someone darting across the road to the park. And so it's a much safer it's a much safer way to do that. And also, it creates an ability for folks who are parking over here and getting to the park to have a safe passage to the park from the parking lot side as well. So with the project, we'll also be, as I mentioned earlier, changing out some of the parking. One of the things that we'll be looking at meeting is the appropriate spaces and widths for van spaces. And with that, we'll be increasing spaces with one additional parking space. And my favorite part of the project is the new lighting. So we will be looking at two types of fixtures that will be going on the site. When we look at lighting for city facilities, and especially recreation centers, there's a number of things that we have to consider. One is, of course, we're all going to LED. That's a no-brainer now. And then the other thing that we look at is lights that actually meet what's called the design lighting consortium. And then that's a verified system of looking at whether or not are the lights actually high quality and do they meet current energy codes and are they actually energy efficient. And so that narrows down the types of fixtures that are out there. We also look at the local lighting codes. So because of where this is at, they have to be down lights and not up lights. So that's going to be an improvement from the apartments don't presently meet that since they're up lights. And then also we look at what's required in terms of Mid-American Energy rebates, so we get the biggest bang for our buck in terms of lighting. And then we try to get lights that have a 5-year warranty, are vandal resistant, and that's particularly important at something like around a recreation center. It's actually interesting when you look at a lot of these lights that are out there and they're programming or advertising, they show kids hitting things like this with a baseball bat to give you an idea of like how vandal resistant they are. But they're so trying to find something that meets all these criteria is something that was important. We also looked at ease of maintenance and aesthetics. So what is something that could fit kind of the modern, streamlined aesthetics of the building? And one of the things that we looked at were in terms of maintenance, we look at things that in terms of finishes, we try to find fixtures that don't require painting because that's something with this environment and the weather is something that is difficult to maintain. So if we can find an aluminum finish or a galvanum finish, that's a big plus for our maintenance staff. And then also a huge thing is finding parts that are easily available. And so you might get a really great fixture, but you might find that to replace the LED light, 2 years down the line, you're ordering it from God knows where, and who knows how long it'll take to get it when it goes out. And so having those things they're really, so meeting all these criteria, here are the lights that we found. So we'll be replacing the in-ground lights, and those are, we can see that what we also call well lights, halide lights, with this bollard fixture. The in-ground, those pictures on the bottom is what I just took those yesterday morning, so you kind of get a feel for the condition that they're in. A lot of moisture issues, they don't produce a lot of anything for the ones that do presently work, so this will be a great change. And also, as you can see from the picture of the one on the right, it does get covered with material, especially in the winter, and so they're not necessarily a great fit for something when you're trying to illuminate the sidewalks and so forth. So this new fixture, we're actually going with, hard to tell the difference, but we're actually going with this one, which is called a spool bollard, and it's made with, it's a steel base, and it will have these wings, and appropriately, the fins should make it a little more vandal resistant. So, let's see, and then we'll be replacing the exterior fixtures. Picture the top left there with this, the radiant post op, and that is a fixture. We were looking for something in terms of finish and quality that matched the bollards, which there's only a few of these, and there's many bollards around the building. And with this one, it has about a 24 with light span, and it meets all of the qualifications in terms of the things that we were looking for in terms of ease of maintenance, ability to get replacement parts, and then also has that streamlined look that the bollards have. So we're working on our rebates, and it looks like there's a projected return within 5 years. So the cost of installing these lights will be, the payback will be within 5 years, which is pretty great. We try to aim for 7 to 10, but 5 is excellent. So this will be a fantastic improvement. And lastly, project schedule. And so we are hoping to receive all of our final plans tomorrow. I'm meeting with the architects and engineers tomorrow to go through them. We're looking at starting the council process on March 1st. We're setting the public hearing, assuming all goes well, on March 7th, having the public hearing on the 21st of March. And then we haven't set our pre-bid meeting, but that's the meeting that the architects and the owners meet with potential contractors that are interested in bidding the project, and we'll be doing a walkthrough on the site and discussing how the bid process works. And then we hope to take bids on April 12th, and then pending bids, council will have action on the 18th of April. So in terms of scheduling, we're looking at phasing right now, and this, there may be some adjustment here, but we're looking at late May phasing for the first and second phases with parts of the building. And then, and also the road closure hasn't been set yet in terms of when we're going to be doing that. But we do want to set the final phase, which is the area that's quite directly in front of the building where we'll be doing some kind of closure. We're looking at the first part of September. These dates, when we set this up, the intent was to look at, one, trying to get the best pricing that we can, and also to get the best contractors that we can. And one of the things that we have, which is a good and bad thing in Iowa City when we're trying to bid projects, is that we're competing with the University of Iowa, which also tries to develop projects in the summer, and then the school district as well. And so, with those closures and big entities that are also bidding, big, especially paving projects, concrete projects, which are ideal to have done in the summer, we try to set up many of our own building projects so they miss those timelines. And so that's why before school gets out and after school starts. The other thing that we're looking at is early part of September is generally also when we redo our, go through and redo our gym floors. And so we know that will be closing part of the building down for that anyways. And so we're trying to line that all up so it has the least amount of inconvenience to the user groups. So that's the plan so far. That's the project. Any questions?
How tall were some of those? I was trying to see the height so far. Is how tall for the different varying lighting options? So I'm curious.
I believe so they vary slightly. I believe that the bollards are about 4 feet.
Okay.
And then the taller lights, I believe, you know what? I'm not even going to say because I'm going to get it wrong unless I have, but I can get that.
8 or 10 feet.
Yeah. Actually, I think it's over. I think they're 10, about 10.
Did you look at like kind of traffic flow around that bend? I always, depending on the time of day you go, like how sometimes it seems to bottleneck there.
Mm-hmm.
People will try to you naturally kind of, if you're coming in off of Bradford, you park sort of slanted and you back, and some people kind of back out and try to do a U-turn to go back. I just was curious if you looked at addressing any of that.
We actually corrected part of that earlier this year, or end of last year, so it's no longer a one-way through there for one thing, so you can go both ways already. That's already helped some, but somewhat limited around that curve with what could be done.
I was just curious.
Yeah, the main project lead on this is a civil engineer from Tri-Battery, and so he was the one that helped us looking at how far do we bring those parking spaces in, so we have a little bit of room there in terms of, because we know we have issues with bottleneck there. People will pull in, not to mention that we have unloading that happens there with our staff, and so there's a lot of action, and then we have all those ton of junior high kids at 3 o'clock every day, so there's a lot physically going on in terms of the views. I think the main thing in terms of one of the things that we were trying to mitigate is how to deal with that crossing and making sure we got rid of that or worked that in different locations so that you didn't have that one other thing that was happening at such a busy corner.
You had mentioned moving or removing some of the bike racks. Can you talk about, you didn't catch all of that, or the details of that.
So the existing bike racks that are there, what we're trying to do is we have the play bike rack off to the east. And
Used to
so
be downtown,
Yeah,
the one that used to be downtown that's been relocated.
Oh, gotcha.
And so we're trying to encourage folks to use that bike rack. We found that especially on the one that's on the, I guess it would be the northern most one, we find that oftentimes bikes are just left there, and so that, we've had issues with blocking the sidewalk and so forth, and so, especially after 3 o'clock with that patron use. And so we wanted to make sure that we didn't instigate an issue with travel path. And so when we looked at trying to figure out what made the most sense in terms of making sure that we met the ADA, didn't create other issues, that's what was decided.
And you did catch the part that the building will be closed to the public those first couple weeks in September, most likely. So that's important for all of you to know, to pass along to your neighbors and friends if they say, why is Mercer closed? It's because of the entrance work. We are looking at a possibility of being able to still accommodate the swim team use from the school district, having them go through a side door. It wouldn't be public swim use, but we think we can accommodate the school district use during that time. And as Kumi mentioned, that's when we're going to redo the gym. So it's kind of a bonus that the building will be closed. We talked with the school district and with all of our other user groups before choosing those dates. And that's one of the lower use times for us to do it. So.
Follow-up question if there are other events going on during that time usually, but it's great. It's also great to see just more ADA compliance, just accessibility, making sure everyone can take part in it. So thank you. Any other questions or comments from the commission?
So it would be appropriate for the commission to have a motion if you're in favor of the project to recommend it moving forward.
So a motion to recommend the project as outlined by Kumi.
Second. I can't make a motion.
So do you want to do a motion first?
I thought you were just.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Jumping straight to second.
Okay, I make the motion then.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have one of our newer staff members, Mallory Spicer. 6 months, right? Just about 6 months. And she's going to fill you in on some of the new things that she's been doing with our programming and outreach programs. Some of it happening at Mercer.
Yeah. So I oversee the adaptive and inclusive programming as well as outreach. So some of the changes I've made since I've started is I know that we are underserving our youth in as far as AIR, or the adaptive and inclusive. We've changed the acronym, now we're calling it AIR. So if you hear that, that's what we're talking about.
It used to be SPY, so you'll
Yes.
see it in some of our other documents as SPY, which was Special Population Inclusion or something.
Yes, and those terms are not appropriate to use anymore. So we're changing them over to adaptive and inclusive. And it is a little bit of a slow process because that acronym is hidden everywhere. So as we find it, we're replacing it, but it's taking a little bit of time. So one of the things we're discussing or looking at is offering youth programming for children with disabilities. We're doing this, starting this season, we're providing some cooking classes, which have been really well received as far as registration. They haven't happened yet, but they are very, I've had parents that are very excited. We're also offering just one-time events as far as like craft programs or fitness programs. We're looking to build on family opportunities. Right now, the struggle is with youth participants who have disabilities. Typically, that requires a lot more staffing, depending on their needs. So as we get to know the population, we can more specify and offer programming that's specifically for the children. But right now, until we get to know them and their families and can get comfortable with us, we're offering family programming as well. So some of our more popular programs that we do with our adults are like our karaoke events and our bingo events. We have like Yahtzee and card games. So what we've done is offered a second option along with those as a family opportunity for people to bring their families in and do those same activities that are very popular, but to kind of get to know our staff and get to know the process and see what people are interested in. To date, we've only had one youth program so far. We're kind of taking lower registration as we start building our user group. and we had a really good successful event. We made junk robots, so we used recycled items and made creations, and a lot of parents chose to stay to help assist with those activities. But we ended up with five children that attended that, and it was very well received. We had to like remind them that the hour was up because they were so involved, which was really wonderful. So that being said, we're also looking a little bit at summer camp opportunities. I'm still getting used to, I'm new to Iowa City. I'm from Iowa, but not Iowa City. So I'm still learning a little bit about what opportunities are out there for individuals with disabilities, especially youth-wise. I'm looking at working with the school district to see what they're offering as far as education and seeing how we can complement that. So if they're doing a half-day education piece, we would like to do a half day, the other half of the day as a camp opportunity. So it'll start small, maybe 10 kids, and again, building that as we learn our user group and see what the interest is from the community. It's very challenging to get in with youth because parents are, as they should be, very protective, and so it's going to take a little bit for them to get comfortable with us, to see what we're able to do, to kind of trust us. So we'll have to do a lot of trust building. But if we can get those individuals in the door, that's people that we can keep for life. You know, we could serve them well into their elderly years and provide programming throughout their whole lives, which is just really would be ideal for what we're doing and how we're serving. So along with that, we're also, one of the changes that I made, because I am a therapeutic rec specialist, is that I've started adding goals to all the programs that we're offering. So with that, that is the mark of therapeutic rec, which makes it so there's an achievable or a goal-oriented aspect to the programming. So if somebody is getting funding or they have a goal within their group home to work on cooking skills, then they can see in our program description, this program is going to work on cooking skills, it's going to focus on fine motor, it's going to be social, it's going to be leisure skills, and have all those things listed. So hopefully that'll help people that maybe are interested in our programs, but they really need to focus on achieving those goals, then be more interested in our programming as well. So lots of little changes with the adaptive and inclusive, but also on the outreach side, we are looking to provide a lot more small one-time events. So just a couple hours to celebrate the small, I don't want to say smaller holidays, but like the more cultural holidays. So we are going to do like a Black History Month event where we'll focus on quilts of freedom. The Underground Railroad will talk about some different things of what the quilt patterns mean, because I'm a quilter like Julie, so I love that stuff too. So we'll talk about what there was, hidden messages in the quilts that they would use and how they would present them, and we'll talk about that with the children, and then we'll show a documentary or a movie to go along with that. So we'll provide that for Black History Month. We're going to do Women's History Month as well, and then because I'm really into civil rights and disabilities right now, we're going to do a disability civil rights event as well to talk about the revolution of disability, how those individuals gained a lot of independence, and the battle that they went through in order to get that. So the basic premise is going to be some activities, some children activities, crafts, different movement things, and then with the documentary involved as well. So we've had our first one for Therapeutic Recreation Month. It was last weekend, and we didn't get very many people attending, but the crowd was good for what we had. We're hoping to build on that and maybe get a little bit better with our marketing, get out to more people, bigger reach, and hopefully build that program in the future. Do you guys have any questions over anything?
That all sounds awesome. I'm wondering,
Thank you.
when you say inclusive, is that so the children with disabilities are included with their typical peers?
Yes, thank you for asking that, because I did kind of forget that piece. So we are working at providing more of an inclusive environment as well. So one thing that I also noticed when I came here, because my last job was completely just inclusion, is that we're not really providing those one-on-one opportunities to assist in other quote-unquote typical programs. So we are going to be providing that as well, especially over summer. Usually summer camp is when we see a lot of that, but providing different modifications and accommodations in order for those people to be included in all the programs that we're offering. So you may have noticed in our last program guide, there's blurbs in every section that talks about inclusion, and if you need any modifications or adaptations in order to participate, to reach out to me. So that might be something as simple as providing a larger print activity guide, or it could be providing an actual human to help them one-on-one or work through that program. So that'll be on a needed basis and based off that individual's abilities and needs to participate in that program, because it could also be adaptive equipment. So we'll just look at that case by case and provide that as needed. But that's typically a pretty big need in the community, so if we could provide that, I think we'll be able to reach a lot more of those families that are not getting services yet right now.
I think it's a huge need. I'm a physical therapist in the school.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and so it's like, you know, how do we get rec and leisure for these kiddos?
Yes.
And a lot of times there isn't options. But it's nice to hear, like, they just need to reach out, like, you can provide an adult to help and
Yes.
build trust, you know, that kind of thing. 'Cause it is hard to leave your kid.
It is, and I totally understand that. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I think building those relationships with the parents are just as important as building them with the individual that's getting the services. It makes them know that you're capable, that they can trust you, but it also, the parents are always the number one most knowledgeable person for that child. So if you're having any struggles or you need any assistance adapting, like they're wealth of knowledge. So having that communication, open communication relationship is so important.
That's awesome. Because that friendships are huge, right?
Yes.
So where do you make friends? Sometimes in school, but mostly what your interests are.
Yeah.
And when they do exit interviews with kids with cerebral palsy, they all say, I didn't have any friends.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like a huge, like, I don't care what the math teacher did, I wanted a friend.
Right.
And so this is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we can really build it. And IOC district isn't, like, all the preschools are fully, it's inclusive. They,
Oh, yeah.
You know, we used to have separate programs for people, but now everything's inclusive.
Yes, and I think that there's value to both. I definitely believe in inclusion. I think that serves both the individual that's being included as well as the other individuals in the program. Like, there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of value in like individual programs for people with disabilities, because it's a sense of community. It's seeing yourself and the people around you, somebody that knows your struggle. So I think that it's important to have the balance and offer both.
Yeah, you can take your time.
Right, you're not judged.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. And what ages is the youth? Like the cooking class was what ages?
Oh, so we're doing youth is from 6 to 16. So we're not trying to do preschool yet. That's a little bit harder to
Yeah.
gauge, but we're looking at school age essentially.
Okay. And so any disability?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
This all sounds innovative and creative, and I'm really happy to hear about it. I was thinking it might be a good opportunity with the Quilting Underground Railroad activity to include some of the stops that were which were part of the Underground Railroad here in Iowa City.
Oh, that was
specifically a house on Dubuque Street. I mean, and that way, when they're with a parent driving, they can look for it and point it out and share the history with
That's
friends.
awesome.
And just even including a map and a front, picture of it.
Yeah. I'll have to do more research on that, but yeah, I think
Okay,
that's wonderful.
I can tell you the house that I have in
Okay,
mind.
that's awesome. Thank you.
Are there other things that we as community members can do to help you and support you in these efforts?
Honestly, I think that really right now it's the marketing. The master plan and looking through that has recognized that there's not programming happening in our surrounding cities. So I don't know where those individuals are going. So really we should be the one-stop shop. So as long as we can get those people coming in and we can serve them, we have really good registrations. I've actually upped the maximum of what we're offering, but we're having really bad turnout with actual attendance. And that's something that we're working with the group homes with to see what that is. This season we're also offering things at different times to help accommodate and see what's best for their use. But just word of mouth, getting people involved, I think is really great. Staff is always a concern. I have fantastic staff, but I could always use more. And the more staff we have, the more programs that we can offer and the more inclusion that we can offer too. So yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
You're
It's great to
welcome.
learn more about it.
Yes,
Really
thank you
appreciate the
guys.
time.
Mallory Smizer, SMYSOR. Okay.
All right, we'll move on to item number 6, and first hear from Julie.
Okay, so several items on the report. You do have a memo in your packet, which is not always the case for me. I went through a couple items that were asked for at the last meeting. So you have information there was questions about the house by Happy Hollow Park. I think it's been cleaned up from what Chris was referring to, but it has been checked. He asked for the contract amount and the rec master plan that's in there. And then the list of parks left to be renovated They're all in there with pictures of what the playgrounds look like in each one of those. And those will probably be things we look at on our next tour when we go out as a group and have a group tour together. Get you a chance to see what those parks are like that are left for renovation. Also some explanations about the pool counts. Obviously you've gotten some new information from our Save Robert A. Lee group. Realize that as staff, every time they're bringing forward one of the times when their counts don't match with ours, we are taking it seriously, looking back, correcting it if we feel like our count was in error. We found it both ways. Sometimes we're in error, sometimes we're not. But realize that going back into each of those months, we are going back and doing any corrections. They don't stand as they were. And now that we're 6 months into it, we will soon start seeing some trends and we'll start reporting more of those trend numbers. We're looking into some comparisons of what kind of attendance are the other pools in the area getting. And the University Pool, Coralville, North Liberty. Interesting enough, we're finding that, for instance, North Liberty hadn't counted any better than we had really only counted their paid admissions. So they don't really have pool numbers like we didn't have for years here. So it's just interesting finding that out. But we'll have some more comparisons as we go down the road in the next couple of years. It's such an ongoing process. So just as you read what they've done tonight or given you tonight, we'll have a response for you as well. I haven't seen what's presented on that. Any questions about the items that were in the memo? Oh yeah.
Oh, well, just what you were saying, yeah. How do you recorrect a count? Do you look at video footage or?
We do a little bit of both. So as I explained in the memo, for one thing, we were finding that the 11 to 1 o'clock hour counts were off sometimes by 1 or 2 people, quite often. What we found is that our counters were counting exactly from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And there was actually people checking in, obviously, from like 10:45 until 11. So we were missing a couple of those early check-ins. We have that data in our system, we just weren't pulling it for the count. So we can go back and actually add that time between 10:30 and 11 to all of the months you've seen so far to make sure that. Other times there's questions about, they may count bodies in the water, but it may for us be a staff person that is not public use. There's been a couple other, it's been a class, so it's counted in the class column, those kind of things.
Okay.
So sometimes video, although the video is pretty limited in the amount of time we can look back at it, it's 14 days usually, and we don't have the full view of the pool, so it's not always the only way we can do that. Yeah.
Just because right now I was down there checking and the girl working, who was, on her phone, of course, missed 2 people who came in, and I went up and asked her, and anyway, so I'm just wondering how seriously are the young folk taking that?
Yeah, honestly, the numbers that we're comparing with the group are not off by more than a few people here and there. So I don't know that, now it depends on if this time of night they were probably coming in for swimming lessons. So that's counted,
Okay.
they aren't checked in at the front desk, they're counted at the pool. So we've done spot checks, we've had additional staff stand back in the hallway and double check that everyone that comes back to the locker rooms had checked in. Those have been spot on, that people had been checking, because that's what we thought. People had maybe coming down the stairs and not checked in. We didn't find that to be significant.
Okay.
So we're not finding that the differences are generally significant. We've had a few things I mentioned, we had one time we found that one staff member hadn't turned the equipment on correctly or something, and we retrained that staff member. So it's been a good process. But I still think when you look at the overall trends, you'll see it one way or the other. And see the trends overall.
And I don't know if this applies to this area or something else, but a couple of friends have asked why, if it's possible to extend the hours for the pool, because it is, 1 o'clock it ends, and Sunday is busier.
So right now the numbers don't support that as far as how busy. That's what we've always said. We're watching the attendance numbers in the pool and the actual attendance, and they haven't supported the need for additional hours. So we haven't added hours back in. If our attendance numbers climb and we feel like we're at capacity or needing more space, we'll look at it. We look at it kind of on each semester basis. And that hasn't been the case yet. We haven't had full lap lanes for more than 15 or 20 minutes anytime, and even if full, they're not sharing lap lanes. So, yeah, we just haven't assessed that it's full enough that we would, or that there's a need yet for that. We also look at what the capacity is and how much Mercer's getting used to. So when you put all those things together, it just hasn't seemed to be appropriate yet to expand any hours.
So if more people come in the morning, then that could be reason to expand the hours in the afternoon. Okay.
The other person brought up about, I guess, email marketing. Can you comment about what sort of outreach we do?
Yeah,
to-
I will. I'm gonna, if we could wait, and when we get to
Sure.
the rec report, I'll let Brad comment on that. That happens through the rec division.
Thanks.
I was wondering, we're gonna do a tour later on of the ones that need to be redone, and I was wondering at that point, will we have a chance to give input, like, oh, this would be a good one to make inclusive, or help with the design of one of them, maybe even.
And definitely, and
Okay.
you get a chance going forward as whichever playgrounds are coming up for that year.
Okay. It's gonna be cool, yeah, when a wheelchair could go on, and just there's so many really neat new things out there for kids in wheelchairs, so maybe if we just had one park in the city, that would be cool.
Well, we do.
Which one?
Pet Mall, Willow Creek Park. And we've added ramps to a number of the different playgrounds to make sure that they
They can get onto the structure?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and, or even like a swing thing,
Yeah.
there's so many different little things. Like I love the hammock. You're not in a wheelchair, but if you get transferred out, you could lay on it, so, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll show you on our website. We do list those out and what kind of things have been added at each park.
Oh, cool, okay, thank you.
Speaking of playgrounds, sorry, did you have something, Dolores? Oh, okay. Speaking of playgrounds, we're still waiting for the proposals to come back again on Happy Hollow. We ended up giving them until this Friday for the playground manufacturers to give us the proposals. So you'll see that next month. The other thing that had been planned initially for this month was the Mercer Park Athletic Field project. We held on to that, unfortunately due to more of a paperwork error than anything, but we were having some issues with the contract happening on that, and so we felt better waiting another month before going forward with that presentation for you. If you've been watching anything about the state legislature and I haven't watched what happened today, they've been making some changes that are going to affect city budgets. They are changing the rollback due to what was essentially an accounting error earlier last fall. It will mean couple $1 million less in revenue here in Iowa City for our operating budgets, not within just Parks and Recreation, but throughout the entire city. So just to be aware that we're kind of heading into a different type of budget situation where we have approved a budget, looking forward to how we're going to operate for the next year, and now most likely are going to have to go back and look at where we can trim things and where we can save money, or staffing may not move forward as fast as we'd hope with some of the, if we have full-time replacements, those kind of things. It's just the nature of what's happening, but if at all, it's not anything in our budget process this time. It's a change being made kind of late in the game for the state. So. And then a couple things to look forward to. Most likely next month we'll have more of a recreation program focused meeting and rec goals that have to do with our the master plan process. And then at another meeting later this spring, we're going to invite you all to do a tree planting at McPherson Park. Oh my God. Yeah, so that'll be our meeting for the night. It'll be a forestry focus. They just got a couple of cool new trucks and equipment. We'll have those out there to talk to you about everything happening in forestry and get your hands on and plant some new trees in that park. So look forward to that.
Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you. Thank you. So, Brad.
Yes. So I'll address the question about the communications and what we're doing there to share all the different programs and events that we have in the community. So a couple years ago, our staff worked on a program and event classification guide. Up to that point, there was a lot of different ways about promoting different programs and events within our department. We wanted to streamline that so everyone within our division was on the same page as far as how we promote those programs and events to the community. So we broke it down by events, kind of looking at we have different partners with the event, how do we promote that? A lot of that's through social media and things of that sort. But with the programs that we have, so like water fitness would be one of the programs that we have, youth sports, any of those different types of programs that we have, there is an onus on the recreation program supervisor. We don't want to blast out every single program that we have through social media, because then it just starts to just crowd up our feed, and it's just noise for everybody when they're looking for it. We really want our posts that we have to be very intentional with what we're trying to post out there, so that we're getting eyeballs on it. So there's more of a responsibility on the recreation program supervisors to utilize ActiveNet in particular. So ActiveNet is our registration software system that we use. And we have a very robust database at this point. We've been using that system for about 10 years. And so we have contact information, we have ages of everybody that's in the system, that's signed up for an account at some point. We have a history of all the different programs that they're signed up for. So with that, we have the tools in ActiveNet to be able to filter that down and say, all right, we've got this program for 5 to 8-year-olds in arts and crafts, for example. So we can filter that down, and we can look at all the different kids that would be in that age group that has taken similar programs to that in the past, and we can send them something through ActiveNet, which hits their email account, so it's basically a newsletter of sorts, that says, hey, here's some upcoming activities that we think you might enjoy. And so we actually do a lot of targeted marketing for the different programs that we have. Each program supervisor is responsible for that. Some programs need more promoting than other programs. We also try to find a balance between promoting different programs that we really maybe need a little additional people signing up for, versus just hammering people all the time with these different emails so that they get to a point where they just want to unsubscribe from it. I know I've been on some email lists where I just get hit with emails every single day, and it's like, oh, I'm done with that. So we want to try to find that balance where they still stay engaged, they're actually opening the emails and reading them. So we do that, it's just kind of finding that balance. Any questions on kind of what we do there?
Yeah, you talk about the names you have in the ActiveNet database, but how about getting new names? What's the outreach for getting new people who might be interested in swim lessons, like
Sure.
one of the speakers said? Or
So that's primarily, as far as the new names is concerned, that's primarily from people that are signing up for programs. Now, one of the things that we've talked about, and I'll be able to share more about this next month when we talk about some of the different recreation goals that we have. We've been having some interesting discussions with our recreation division staff on the goals that are most important to us that we're taking away from the recreation program master plan. And communications was a big part of that. You know, we recognize that our method to reach a large contingent of the population, there's a lot of people that aren't engaged with what we're doing with recreation, and the conversation that we're having is how do we extend that out so that we can better reach people that aren't actually participating in recreation right now. Because a lot of what we found, one of the barriers that we found is that people don't even know that Parks and Recreation exists, or that we even offer all these different cool programs. They're interested if they knew about them, but they don't necessarily know about them. And so that's one of the conversations that we're having, is finding different ways to be able to do that. So we'll be able to share a little bit more about that next month, and kind of the different measures that we're using. So there's a translation component to that as well. Hiring more diverse staff, hiring staff that's multilingual. So that's one part of it, for being able to just make our facilities more welcoming and being able to interact with people that come into our facilities. But then there's also more of the traditional communications piece, like looking at adding in not newsletters per se, but more focused, like email that we send out kind of mid-season that says, hey, I know it's been like 3 months since we last put out our activity guide, but here's some other activities that are coming out. Because I think people forget that it's been so long since that activity guide comes out, because, you know, for winter and spring programming, that comes out in December and people start registering for that. Well, we have programs all the way into May with that season, and I think people might sometimes forget about that. So I think that there's other ways that we can reach out to the community for that.
I think it's important to note too that you may not see a lot of advertising for swimming lessons because they're generally at capacity. So we don't advertise a lot because they tend to fill within days of registration opening. So we tend to advertise for programs that are newer programs or programs we're trying to grow. So I wouldn't say that just because you don't see advertising, it's partially to help with the frustration level of people that see it and want to get in when it's full or when we're at capacity.
So one of the other things to add to the communication side of things, we recognize we have this wonderful Rec Assist program that takes 50% off of most everything that we do for those that are income eligible. A lot of people don't know about it. We have a new initiative that we launched last year, the Rec and Ride program, where we subsidize 50% of people's transportation costs. They come here, we give them a bus pass to get home. A lot of people don't know about that. So we're working with the communications office. Actually, just this last month, they worked with us to create a video on our Rec and Ride program. So we're going to be able to start promoting that on our social media page and on our web page and getting that out to the community so people can learn, one, that we have that program, and then two, how it actually works. So it kind of walks them through the step-by-step. We want to do the same with Rec Assist. We'll probably look at doing something with our swim lesson scholarship as we're teaching all kids how to swim in Iowa City through the Every Child Learns to Swim program. And that's going to be our topic for our next recreation staff meeting is what other areas are out there that we can engage people that might be barriers to recreation. What can we do as a staff and as a department to help overcome some of those obstacles? So. Yeah.
Sorry, well, I was just thinking, sometimes just good old-fashioned posters. In terms of readings, for example, at Prairie Lights, they've got a stylized poster, and it really captures people. They were in Oasis and the public library, and I don't know, it's old-fashioned, but I think it could get more than it's exciting, and it might be worth a try. It doesn't. Anyway, something like that for the roller skating.
Yes.
Continuous for this month. Is it just this month or through the spring?
Roller skating?
Yeah.
That'll be through May.
Okay, through May. But yeah, something like that. I don't know if we're under capacity with people or over capacity.
No, but I mean, it's a free event and it's a great event. We actually have a really good turnout for the roller skating.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Well, anyway, there are a lot of people going through and milling about it in front of that message board and at the public library, and I'm there a lot. And I'm willing to help in any way. So.
Okay. Well, that's a good suggestion. Thank you.
Do you, I know some information from the city comes out to like Nextdoor, where I've heard about some things, and I find that's pretty useful because it's pretty local content.
Yeah.
Does the rec department?
We use that. Yeah, we use that sparingly. We use it more so during the summer months when we're announcing, hey, we've got a party in the park event that's going to be in your neighborhood, where it is more targeted to the actual neighborhoods where we're going to be doing some of our mobile recreation. Not as much for events that we have during the winter months where it's more here, and then we really have to be blasting that out to all the different communities or all the neighborhoods. Any other questions on the communications side of things? Just wanted to touch on a couple recaps from last month for events. So on January 16th, we had a wonderful MLK Day of Service event out at Mercer Park. We had a lot of people that came out for that, a lot of folks that were in the march. And then we also had some service projects going on, some crafts and activities that were going on out there. Dolores gave a wonderful presentation up there. She did very good. Very good that you were there. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so it was a great event, and it seemed like everyone was having a good time there. A couple weeks ago, we did our STEAM and technology open house here, which we were showing off some robotics or microscopes or drones, all kinds of different cool stuff. So we had some people that were out here, some different families having fun. And then last week we did our Freeze Fest, which this is going to be one of the events that we're targeting for growth in the future. This is going to be an event that we really think that we can add a lot to. But we had a good turnout. It was not so much the freezing part of things. It was, I think, in the 40s. But people had fun nevertheless. We had a lot of partners that were involved with that event. We had s'mores and hot chocolate. We had the Raptor Center out there, World of Bikes, Green Iowa, AmeriCorps. I know that there was a few others there too, but it was a great event. A lot of different families coming out and enjoying it. So we've been busy, even though it is the winter months. We still managed to stay plenty busy during this time. And then summer's right around the corner, so we're definitely planning on that.
Thanks for the update, Brett.
I appreciate it.
Tyler's not here tonight. The only thing I would announce from Tyler's group is that we just got word today that the Chaddock Green Playground is going to arrive in the next few days. We've been waiting almost a year for it, so that'll be one of our first installs come when the weather, we get through the freeze cycle, so that's good.
Where is that at?
Chaddock Green is Friendship Drive, kind of south of City High, in real broad terms.
Kind of heading Court Street, heading east.
Yeah.
Going in that direction. Or that way.
Right.
Great. I don't have anything for chair's report at this time, and so we can go around and see if there's any other items from the commission or future agenda. We'll start with Rachel. We'll just kind of go around. Do you have anything?
Oh, I did have a question about trees, but anyway, since Tyler's not here, I'll just wait.
You can email it to me, or I can get it to him if you want to go sooner.
Nothing for me.
I'm good, thanks.
No, just appreciate all the updates.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dolores?
I have a suggestion or even a question, because I just don't know. Is there a softball team, baseball team, football team, from center to center, playing against each other or against other centers?
So baseball, softball are provided here by the Youth Sports Association. So they provide the teams.
They do have teams?
They do have teams. And this is like based on each recreation center. Maybe Brad can maybe know more on how the teams are created. I'm not sure.
I think
if
a
they're
lot of
named.
it's based off of who's wanting to coach and if there's some other kids that are wanting to be on that coach's team. And yeah, I don't think it's very like by neighborhoods.
So for the school age kids, we provide the fields, and then they provide the programming. Adults, we no longer offer adult softball. We did for a long time. We actually rented fields from the university to do so. It would dwindle to such a point that we didn't have enough teams hardly to have a real season. Whereas Corville had capacity, so the teams that still wanted to play are in Corville playing. One of those things you never thought would die in Parks and Recreation, but it has been seeing a nice slow death.
There's a soccer league is that through the city or no?
No, Iowa City Kickers supported by us and associated with us, but not us.
That's all.
Okay.
Thank you, Dolores. Just echo Brett, you did quite well, so at Martin Luther King event, so it was great to see you. So, all right. And with that, there's no other items on the agenda, so we'll adjourn. Appreciate everybody being here this evening. Thank you.
All right.